Hi there, I'm Gwyndolen. This is my ethnic and cultural self-awareness presentation for Blanca Ramos's social work with immigrants class. So I'm just going to touch on a couple of my ethnicities, I guess, or places where I'm from, because there are a lot. I am 1/4 Norwegian and also a quarter Native American, and so I'm going to touch a little bit on both of those. Let's see here. In this picture, just some Salish Flathead Indians, Native Americans up top there, and then there are some Norwegian homesteaders on the two bottom corners, and then in the middle there I'm also an 8th Portuguese, but I won't be touching on that. A Portuguese schoolhouse in the center there. This is a census from 1920. Between those two black lines I have my great-grandpa, who's at the bottom there, not even one yet, Kenver Hankland, and his father, my great-great-grandfather, is Nicholas Hankland, and he immigrated in 1908 from Norway. Both sides of that part of my family are immigrated around the same time from Norway, all sort of taking advantage of Western expansion and the Homestead Act. The Homestead Act, was basically acreage promised to folks, specifically most often in the Midwest, 160 acres, and the agreement was you paid a very low price, but additionally you also agreed to cultivate the land for 5 years at least. And so a lot of folks took advantage of that, and let me just go right back here just one moment. There we go. And in particular, more Norwegians moved to Minnesota than anywhere else, and that's where my family ended up as well. They were not fleeing as refugees of sorts, but leaving religious persecution as Lutherans and Quakers, and also there was a lot of overcrowding, and the economy wasn't doing great in Norway, and most of the individuals that immigrated were a particular, sort of type of Norwegian, and they were to the United States at this time, and they were working class, rural farm workers primarily, or farmers as their profession, and because of the shortage of ample, usable land in Norway, a lot of folks, and financially couldn't afford it, a lot of folks rented a small piece of land in order to grow food for their family. So you can imagine when there's this opportunity that you can own your own land, and a lot of it, and it's already flat for farming, if you just cultivate the land for 5 years, is a pretty sweet deal. So a lot of individuals, 850,000, I think, between 1820 and 1920, came to the United States from Norway. And this is a homestead certificate, like we were just talking about. Also, additional land sometimes was given at a very low price for service in the Civil War. And these are some more, all of these folks were immigrating to Minnesota, and they're just families that took advantage of the Homestead Act. And let's see, this, so the other aspect of my ethnicity that I'm going to talk about is my dad was adopted, and about 20 years ago he had his adoption records released, and his father is Native American, from the Flathead tribe, or the Salish tribe, kind of one and the same, but part of a larger group of Native Americans from the Montana area. And like so many other Native Americans, they were sent to missions, as well as children were sent to boarding schools where there was, rampant abuse, disease, and these kids were assimilated and denied any acknowledgement or practice of their own culture, that was identified as Native American. And this is in 1956. The government was trying to move Native Americans off of reservations and relocate them into urban areas. And so let's see, right, I'm just trying to find it. Here we go. Indian Relocation Act of 1956, excuse me. And during this time, Native Americans, it was voluntary, but were sort of heavily persuaded to leave reservations. And this was seen as a way to solve the Indian problem by the federal government and to move large concentrations of Native Americans into cities, and again try to sort of erase Native American culture and assimilate them into urban areas. So they were given the option, but a lot of advertising, like posters and billboards, flyers or whatever like this, to come to places such as Denver. You can see it's like a very attractive, promising piece of paper. And, the deal was that the BIA, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, would help you find housing and jobs and things like that. And like so many other things, the federal government often didn't deliver, and individuals were sort of stuck in urban areas with not a lot of skills that translated into an urban area, and often it just perpetuated, poverty within Native American communities. The correlation with this to my family, though, is that my dad was adopted in 1963, and Oakland was one of the places that this relocation was occurring in large amounts, and often people were relocated far from where they originally were from. So my dad's biological mom, gave a statement. She was 16, and my dad's biological father had said that he was Flathead, from the Flathead tribe in Montana, Native American, and was a shoe salesman. But the fact that he's in Oakland right at this time period, far from home, there's a strong chance that he was part of this relocation program, and that's why he had moved to Oakland. Let's see here. This is also just the Salish Nation, which the Flathead tribe is part of, are a very successful, strong group of Native Americans. There was a effort to terminate tribes in the 1950s, and they fought very hard and were able to avoid this. Organizations like the American Indian Movement were formed at this time, and today the Flathead tribe and Salish Nation remain extremely involved in Montana politics and their own well-being, and fight really hard for the rights that they have, even though they deserve more. This is just a quick, those are sort of associations with my lineage. However, a lot of that cultural ties, to my ethnicity were not imparted upon me or to me as a kid. I definitely identified with the culture of poverty. We grew up on food stamps, on AFDC at first, and then when it turned into TANF, and then my mom struggled after that we kind of lived with different family members at different times. Both of my parents to this day struggle with substance use disorders. And, so the culture of sort of living in that environment, low income, drug addiction, mental health issues in the family, and kind of the culture of acting as a parental figure for my younger siblings, my two younger brothers. And this was really common. I lived in government subsidized apartments growing up. I would say 90% of the families that lived there were single family homes, and the parents were often either working all the time or indisposed. And, the older siblings ended up sort of taking over and doing things like, making dinner in the evenings and getting kids ready for school in the morning and things like that. These are just a couple quotes from studies that were done, statements on how poverty and mental health issues can really exacerbate other things that are going on within a family unit. Poor housing quality is associated with higher baseline symptoms of depression, anxiety, and aggression from elementary through young adulthood. Addressing trauma and mental health problems is critical to preparing youth to overcome the challenges associated with extreme poverty. This is a great James Baldwin quote. Anyone who's ever struggled with poverty knows how extremely expensive it is to be poor. And I just wanted to put that in there because I think that individuals that have never struggled with poverty really don't realize how expensive it is to, you don't have a job, but you don't have a car, and so you use your money to take a bus to go to an interview, or you park your car, but you don't have change, and so you get a parking ticket that you can't pay, and it ends up getting a fine attached to it. And just the travel alone to get somewhere, to maybe be hired, to get groceries, to get food. Often grocery stores are not extremely close by, and you have to use money just to end your day to travel somewhere to get food and then make your way back home. So that's just something that I think goes unnoticed for people that haven't struggled with poverty. And these are just all, I guess I'm kind of listing these because I feel like a lot of this stuff, poor housing quality and depression, anxiety, trauma, all of these things are common experiences for a lot of immigrants. And I, am able to use my own experiences to just sort of have a strong sense of empathy and kind of paint a picture of what folks are going through. Of course, I've never been an immigrant, and I don't know, I don't have that experience, but I do have some experiences that I can draw off of to, basically try and gain some understanding about where individuals are coming from. The other thing is, when I was a kid, I could tell that folks really kind of pitied me because of my family. It was, my parents, I think, were obviously substance users, and we were poor, and there were times that I definitely knew that folks either thought my parents were like, shifty or dicey, or just pitied us kids, and I didn't want that. I didn't want to be pitied, and I think that sentiment has kind of traveled with me, and, treating every individual in a social work situation with dignity is extremely important, and I take that really seriously. So that's another thing that just sort of affects, I guess, the way I want to practice social work. I think that is it. Thanks for listening, and have a great day.